the right real estate professional can be challenging. I'm broker Melissa Wilson. I'm knowledgeable in all aspects of the real estate process. So whether you're looking to buy new or an existing home or have a commercial need, I'm here to help.
Make sure you pick up my 2 books that's in Amazon right now. The first one is Passive-Aggressive Racism and the System of White Supremacy. And I talk about in that particular book how the system of white supremacy really runs on our daily lives here in America. In our latest book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, we go through those steps to try to deprogram you from the system of white supremacy. Make sure you can pick up those books on Amazon.com.
Introducing the African Diaspora News Channel app, your gateway to stories that's overlooked by the corporate mainstream media.
At African Diaspora News Channel, we cover stories that don't receive mainstream attention, and we serve as the voice to the global Black community. We are committed to informing and educating through the power of media, connecting the African diaspora one story at a time.
With our platform, we're helping to end injustice by exposing it.
Join us in standing for excellence in journalism and serving our community. Download the African Diaspora News app today.
And we are live. Peace, family. My name is Vicki Dillard, and I'm pleased to be one of the contributors here on African Diaspora News Channel. Big shout out to our founder, Brother Phil Scott, for this opportunity to greet you today. Good day to you, whatever time you may find yourself situated anywhere around the world. Thank you so very much for tuning in, family. Of course, we ask that you share this broadcast, beloved. That's so very important, because how many of you all know we are the counter voice to the major multi-billion-dollar media apparatus from the opposing side. So you help us to infiltrate and to reach and to strengthen our global Black voice when you share. And for that, we say thank you so very much. Family, let's get ready to get right where we're going. I don't know, family, if you have heard about what is happening here in these United States of America. We have been experiencing extraordinary weather conditions. And I would submit to you, beloved, it is not just a mere situation concerning climate change that so many people are concerned about. I'm a spiritualist. I understand that it is interconnected to justice. It is a text, an ancient text that says, that the earth itself is groaning for the manifestation of divine beings to manifest. So that lets you know that the earth actually responds and in fact revolts when there's injustice. And so one such injustice are Black Americans. When you don't do right by us, when you refuse to give us one red penny, one red cent, but you can give hundreds of billions of dollars to fund wars around the world. You can help both legal and illegal immigrants to the tune of billions of dollars. Beloved, when you can help the powers that shouldn't be and continue to give them favors and loopholes, there is going to be a consequence for it. Are y'all hearing me today? Don't make me get my gavel, baby. Let me hit the gavel on that one. My name is Vicki Dillard, beloved. The Vicki Show has been broadcast on other platforms for years, and my show is a home of the hand claps and gavel raps. And I use the gavel because it was a revelation I got almost 20 years ago, because the gavel is a symbol for legislators, government leaders, and I want you to know that your word matters, yes? So let's get to where we're going today. Family. Now, as mentioned just a second ago, Hurricane Helene, as it's known as, now we're dealing with Hurricane Milton that's happening in the Florida regions now. But Hurricane Helene caused major record flooding and damage in Asheville and other areas in Western North Carolina. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with that. Well, you all understand that a majority of Black Americans continue to vote for the Democrat Party, even though the Democrat Party has not, and quite frankly, refuses to give us tangibles like they do other groups. So it is time for us to hold them accountable for 60 years at least of voting for them with absolutely nothing to show for it. Well, the Democrat candidate, current Vice President Kamala Harris, wants to look very presidential. So she shows up to the North Carolina region, yes? And she has an announcement for those that have lost loved ones, those whose homes were completely destroyed or partially destroyed, those whose other properties and possessions and jobs and ability to move about, and those that don't have food and power and energy, those that are suffering because of health, not being able to get their health, medical needs, those that are on ventilators and so forth and so on, those that are struggling because of that. Listen to this video clip of what she has to say. Miss Kamala Harris feels that she has some good news for you. Watch what she says here in this very brief clip.
And I want to thank the local leaders for together creating a task force-like response, knowing that we are at our best when we work together and coordinate resources, coordinate our communications to the maximum effect for the community that has been impacted. And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met, such as food, baby formula, and the like. And you can apply now for anyone who's watching this who has been affected. There are FEMA personnel who are going door to door to interact personally with folks, especially those who do not have electricity. But also that aid, if you have electricity, can be applied for online. And I encourage people to do that. FEMA will just basically verify your address, and then the process should take hold. FEMA is also providing tens of thousands more dollars for folks to help them be able to deal with home repair, to be able to cover a deductible when and if they have insurance, and also hotel costs. Today I'm also announcing that the President has approved the Governor's request for 100% federal reimbursement of local costs.
Everybody jump for joy. I'm just shaking my head. Everybody jump for joy. Woo! $750. That is absolutely American treason. We just sent, without blinking and without a study and with bipartisanship, hundreds of billions of dollars to Zelensky in Ukraine, billions more for Israel, and multiple states separate and aside from the federal government's announcements of millions and billions of dollars to fund illegal immigration and the costs and expenses that go with that. And American citizens who have lost loved ones, property, possessions, and lack medical equipment, medicine, and food, and energy, you want them to be excited about $750. Let me tell you something, America. And let me tell you something specifically to some of our white brothers and sisters. Let me tell you something, and we can call it brothers and sisters. Y'all know where I'm going with this. You are experiencing also the incompetence of a government that cannot even provide for you. Think it not strange when you disrespect us, when you ignore us, when you skip us. These are going to be some of the consequences that you experience. I've been hearing folks say, when I've been bringing this up about the shame of only providing $750, some folks are saying, well, Vicki, these are just sundown towns. For those of you that don't know, that means that basically these are very racist enclaves that have been known for mistreating Black folks, taking Black folks out, and other such racial issues. You all do understand that there are still some of our family that's in those sundown town areas. Y'all do know that, right? We are everywhere in the United States. But not only that, I'm going to read you from an article here in just a moment about what's happening in some of the prisons in that area. Are y'all ready for what I'm getting ready to read for you? Read to you now. And you know that some of your families are disproportionately locked up in some of the prisons there. I'm going to tell you what's been happening with them. But this is an absolute shame. After I went live on this on another platform, alternative media, not mainstream media, alternative media are the ones that have been calling the ridiculousness of this out, that forced finally mainstream media to tepidly address this. And I knew the same day, which was on the weekend, that I went live to talk about this, I was headed to a holistic appointment. I had to use my phone to go live. Watch this. Y'all ready for this? The White House, y'all ready for this? And I knew it. Hours later, on the same day that a lot of us was giving the White House and the Biden administration this everlasting work, guess what the White House does, y'all? Guess what the White House did? They issued a statement over the weekend, y'all. Are y'all listening? You can go to their website to see this is official. The White House, since Hurricane Helene made landfall, there have been false claims and misinformation regarding the federal assistance available to survivors from former President Trump, congressional Republicans, and others. Y'all listening? They address the FEMA allegations that they claim is misinformation. But then they go on to say, before the storm hit, what President Biden instructed federal agencies to do and so forth, right? Listen to this. Now, this is in reference to those of us calling out Kamala Harris, talking about $750. They said, quote, part of the White House official statement, it is categorically untrue to say that disaster funds have been used for anything other than providing relief to those that need it most. They go on to say, additionally, now this is where they really tripping at y'all, because we've been tearing them up on this. Shout out to alternative Black media. It says, additionally, there is a malicious rumor that survivors are eligible for only $750 in assistance from FEMA. This is not true. Now, y'all, the White House had the nerve to put in bold letters, this is not true on that statement. Y'all look it up on the White House website. They even posted this on their Instagram page, y'all. And they dragging them left and right, too, on social media. Watch this. It says FEMA is providing an immediate payment of $750 to eligible survivors to help with urgent needs like food, baby formula, and other necessities. But those affected may qualify for additional assistance to repair storm-related damage to homes and property and find a temporary place to stay. Ma'am, sir, that's still insufficient. They're telling you, though, this is mostly for homeowners. Now, of course, that would include those, even if you perhaps renting or something like that. But for specifically, they say for those that need repair storm-related damages for homes and property, that's primarily going to affect homeowners. They're playing with us. That little raggedy $750 means absolutely nothing. And Kamala did not say that. VP Kamala Harris did not say that during that. She didn't say, oh, this is just the immediate money that you're going to get. And we're hearing reports from folks that say that they're not even eligible when they apply. This is a shame. And we're going to emphasize that to let you know the incompetency of the government now and what you can expect if she were to take office. Kamala did not say these are your initial checks. It's only after we pressured them, humiliated them, embarrassed them, and reminded them of the hundreds of billions of dollars that they sending all over the world except for us that they even made that statement. We need to hold them accountable for that, family. Are y'all hearing me today? I just want to take a quick moment right now to welcome those of you that are just tuning in. My name is Vicki Dillard. I'm one of the contributors here on the African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for joining us. You're watching us live and direct today. So we want to encourage you to hit that notification bell, the thumbs up button, and share the broadcast. That helps to notify others that we are here. And family, we also want to encourage you to check on a regular basis for our content. Sometimes the notifications don't go out, and sometimes, family, there perhaps times that the network itself is being shadow banned. So when you intentionally and deliberately look for us, you help us to overcome some of those limitations. And for that, we say thank you. And don't forget, we also have our own app. So you want to be sure to download the African Diaspora News Channel app. That's essentially an additional platform that we control, and you'll be able to access that. And I can promise you that it'll be well worth it because we speak to issues that pertain to you. Yes, thank you so very much. Now I want to show you something. I want to say this very quickly before I get to this other groundbreaking article that I want to remind you of. Yes. Now, I mentioned the prisoners, right? I'm reading from The Intercept because I have another piece that I want to connect the dots with to show you how war geopolitics is connected to the national politics and hurricane conditions here in just a minute. This is going to blow your mind. But before I go there, I want to tell you about some of the prisoners here in the North Carolina region. Guess what happened? This piece that's written by Mr. Mitchell says hurricane-struck North Carolina prisoners were locked in cells. Are y'all ready for this? With their own feces for nearly a week. Now, we love to talk about other countries. We love to refer to them now as what? Third countries. They try to be careful now not to say third world, but that's their reference. Third countries. We like to talk about other countries that are not on par with the United States or her other so-called Western democracy allies, which that means little to nothing now. But in the United States, who imprisons a quarter of the world's prisoners. Now, keep that in mind when we call other folks authoritarians and dictators and stuff. Keep that in mind, that the land of the free and the home of the brave incarcerates more of its citizens than any of most of the other developing countries. And I believe, if I remember correctly, combined. Watch this. I won't read all of this. I'm going to get to where I'm going quickly. Watch this. It says, as Hurricane Helene unleashed a torrential downpour over western North Carolina, Nick, whose story was relayed by a relative and who requested to go by his first name for fear of retribution. Are y'all listening? So this prisoner, who's fearful that prison guards and those within the prison system will retaliate against him, and I know for a fact that they do that when you start to leak and tell the truth about what's happening in the American prisons. Watch this. He's going only by his first name, and this is being relayed by a family member. Watch this. He realized his single occupancy cell in the state prison had begun to flood. Then he realized that his toilet no longer flushed. For the next 5 days, more than 550 incarcerated at Mount View suffered in cells without lights or running water, according to conversations with family members of 4 men serving sentences at the facility, as well as one currently incarcerated man. Until they were transferred to different facilities, the prisoners lost all contact with the outside world. All nearby residents sought refuge from the storm. The men were stuck in prison, by definition, without freedom to leave, in close quarters, with their own excrement for nearly a week, from September 27th until October 2nd. The next part gives a quote from a lady who says, "My husband told me this morning he's going to have to see a therapist because of the things that happened in there." Bridget Gentry told The Intercept. "We thought we were going to die. We didn't think anybody was going to come back for us." Family members told The Intercept that their loved ones were forced to defecate in plastic bags. Y'all, I got chills. I'm trying not to get emotional. Their loved ones were forced to defecate in plastic bags after their toilets filled up with feces, stowing the bags in their cells until the North Carolina Department of Adult Correction finally evacuate the facility on Wednesday evening. Now, they had to call out the authorities there and listen to them. Quote, "There were some minor roof leaks during the storm, but no flooding. The buildings held up extremely well during the storm. Water and electrical utilities that served the prisons and communities around them were severely damaged," said Keith Acree, the head of communications at NCDAC. "When it became apparent that power and water outages would be long-term, we made the decisions to relocate the offenders." What? Let me tell y'all something. Prison officials are directly connected to politicians. They're directly connected to what's going on because they're the ones that have to get contingency plans in place. And many of the contingency plans, family, even if they don't know the details of natural disasters or other such issues, they're already in place. Notice he said when we learned that there was going to be long term. No! If you don't have proper electrical and water facilities after the first or second day, you should have made a decision to move then. They're not mere property, even though you consider them to be that. These are human beings. And this is happening in these United States of America. Are y'all hearing me today? This is a disgrace. Now, I want you to keep in mind something. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Look at my previous broadcast that I did here, where I'm giving you nothing but receipts about current Vice President Kamala Harris. Her horrible, terrible record when she was prosecutor, but also Attorney General of the state of California. She was prosecutor of San Francisco. She had terrible policies there. But when she received a promotion as the Attorney General for the entire state, when she took office, prior to her taking office, there was already ongoing litigation happening with the prisons, where her office took it to the next level. As the attorney for the entire state, that's supposed to be the attorney for the people. That's why it's called an Attorney General. Do you know she fought the instructions from the courts to release thousands of prisoners because some were literally dying in prison and because of the horrible conditions? The lady that's running for president of the United States fought the Supreme Court and other courts' demand to release prisoners because of the absolutely terrible and horrific conditions they were in. They were literally dying on her watch, and she fought the courts. She fought the courts so much so. Keep this in mind. This wasn't a one-off. This was intentional. This was calculated. That's why I'm emphasizing this. Do you know that a part of her arguments, among many others, was that they needed the prison labor to fight fires and to make other cheap products for corporations and companies? Keep that in mind. Kamala Harris's office fought in order to release prisoners from deadly conditions, subhuman conditions, so that they could use their very cheap or free prison labors to fight fires. So instead of them giving them good jobs on the outside, because they were credited and properly trained to fight fires as a legit fireman, so that they would not get good incomes, insurance on the outside as firefighters and firewomen, we want to keep you in prison as modern slaves to use you for your cheap labor. That was a part of her arguments. And she turned a blind eye to those that were actually dying. And do you all know that a conservative, right-leaning Supreme Court justice ruled with the liberal parts of the courts, the Supreme Court judges at the time? He wrote the majority opinion, Mr. Kennedy. Look it up. Shaming Kamala Harris and them. And we found out later that they were so disgusted, the higher courts, and also other lawmakers and other legal scholars. Do you know that some of the courts were seriously considering holding Kamala Harris and her team in contempt of court? Don't you ever forget that. These are facts. Keep that in mind with what you see happening today with the prisons. What do you think the mindset is going to be when she takes office? If she takes office. Talk black to me, somebody. Now my time, I want to get to where I'm going now here at the end. Stay tuned, because I have a very, very special announcement, because I'm talking about some of these nefarious things that we're happening here in our government and stuff that's happening globally. Oh, baby, I'm getting ready to have a major collaboration with my brother Rizza Islam on October 27th. I'm going to tell you how you can get your seat. It's going to be a link attached in the comment sections when this broadcast ends. So make sure that you get your seat. But I'm not going to give you details, because this is the kind of stuff that we got to talk about offline, baby. Watch this. I want the team to put up this news headline. Y'all ready for this? If you all could put up this news headline, y'all better get ready. Y'all get ready. This is an article, family, from Mother Jones, which is considered to be a legit mainstream media headline, a news publication, excuse me. Piece written by James Ridgway in 2009. Where is Vicki going? Y'all know I come with the receipts and I'm going to connect the dots. How many of you all remember hearing about Hurricane Katrina? I said, how many of you all remember about Hurricane Katrina? You should be able to see right now a headline before you. What does this headline say, family? What does this headline say? It says the secret history of Hurricane Katrina. The subheadline is, there was nothing natural about the disaster that befell New Orleans in Katrina's aftermath. Where in the world is Vicki going? Now, I need you to keep what I'm talking about now within context of the horrific conditions that's happening with the past Hurricane Helene. And I want you to keep in mind what may be happening with this Milton storm that's in the Florida region and other areas under Democrats. Now, don't come at me because I give Trump, because I believe Trump is equally a devil. I give the Republicans his everlasting word. But you got to understand, I have to give a certain level of work to the Democrats because we give them power. That's something that the majority of Black Americans don't give the Republicans. We give them power to do something about our conditions, and they put everybody before us. So, of course, we're going to put an emphasis on them. Now, I know intelligent Black people can understand that. Vicki, get to where you're going. Y'all see that headline? This is something that most folks don't want to talk about. Now, I'm talking to you now on African Diaspora News Channel, an international, powerful global network that's beaming now on multiple platforms. African Diaspora News Channel, we're on multiple platforms, yes, and have our own platforms. So wherever I'm seeding this message, we're talking to people that's watching and listening to us from around the world, yes? Watch this international geopolitical connection. I'm going to connect with you. Black folks in America were left to die. My family members were some of those victims that experienced the horror and the hell and the mismanagement of the U.S. government. Watch this, but I'm going to take it further. In this piece, listen. I need you all to listen to what I'm going to read to you now, okay? Confronted with images of corpses floating in the blackened flood waters or baking in the sun on abandoned highways, there aren't too many people left to see what happened following Hurricane Katrina as a purely, quote, natural disaster. The dominant narratives that have emerged in the 4 years since the storm, y'all hear that? In the 4 years since the storm, since this piece was written, right, are of a gross human tragedy, compounded by social inequities and government ineptitude, a crisis subsequently exploited in every possible way for political and financial gain. Who did they sacrifice? Black Americans. Watch this, y'all. The article goes on to talk about there's an even harsher truth. One, some New Orleans residents learned in the very first days, but which is only beginning to become clear to the rest of us. This article at least acknowledges the fact that when it covered the Katrina situation years later, they acknowledged that that New Orleans residents knew what was going on the first few days of the hurricane. Y'all listening? It says what took place in this devastated American city was no less than a war. Vicki, calm down. In which victims whose only crimes were poverty and blackness were treated as enemies of the state. Take a deep breath. Y'all better listen. There are geopolitical forces that were operating not speculatively, but literally here in these United States. Vicki, prove it. Okay, keep listening as you hit that thumbs up button and share. Watch this. It started immediately after the storm and flood hit when civilian aid was scarce. But private security forces already had boots on the ground. Some like Blackwater. How many of y'all know about Blackwater? How many of y'all saw Vicki Dillard's coverage right here on this channel where I discussed Blackwater's founder when he was sitting there talking about the United States needs to invade Africa because the African leadership there is too inept to run their own continent in their own nations. He said America needs to go back and colonize them. How many of y'all remember seeing my coverage on that? And I believe one of my other beautiful colleagues may have discussed something similar. Don't quote me on that, but just check out some of the previous broadcasts on it. Listen, somebody say Blackwater. Blackwater, which has since redubbed itself XE, were under federal contract. While a host of others answered to wealthy residents and businessmen who had departed well before Katrina and needed to help protecting their property from suffering masses left behind, according to Jeremy Scahill's reporting in The Nation, Blackwater, y'all listening? Blackwater, y'all, they're a paid mercenary group that normally does business in other countries for wars. The United States government had them under federal contract in an American city in New Orleans. Listen. Armed as they would be in Iraq. Y'all, I gave y'all the headline. Vicki is not embellishing nothing. I'm not embellishing, let me be proper, anything. My Mississippi mess with y'all too much. I know some of y'all think, who she thinks she is talking like that, talking about world issues. Baby, when you got a spiritual authority, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks about you. It matters about your effectiveness. The powers that shouldn't be don't dislike me for no reason, baby. But we're born for this time. That's why it's important to support such networks and outlets as this. Listen, The Nation, this reporting that was done by Jeremy Scahill's reporting in that publication, it says Blackwater set up a headquarters in downtown New Orleans, armed as they would be in Iraq with automatic rifles, guns strapped to legs, and pockets overflowing with ammo. Blackwater contractors drove around in SUVs and unmarked cars with no license plates. Where am I talking about? Am I talking about Afghanistan? Am I talking about Iraq? Am I talking about Yemen? Vicki is talking about New Orleans, Louisiana, in these United States of America, during a tragedy where Black Americans were being killed because of Hurricane Katrina and abandoned by their government. And to add insult to injury, this is who they hire to make sure that those that were desperate didn't mess with the powers that shouldn't be, property and possession. Listen, possessions, listen. When asked what authority they were operating under, Scahill reported, y'all know we're going to give you receipts here, baby. We don't just make up stuff. We give you receipts. One guy said, quote, "We're on contract with the Department of Homeland Security." I don't want to go past that. I need y'all to take a deep breath and listen to what I am saying from a report that was issued in 2009. Are y'all listening? On a mercenary group, a war group that was headed up by former military and in particular a former Navy SEALs for sure, because I've done coverage on him right here on this channel. Listen, we're under contract with the Department of Homeland Security. Then pointing to one of his comrades, he said he was even deputized by the governor of the state of Louisiana. Vicki, please calm down. Y'all, I'm trying to calm. I'm trying to calm down. I'm trying to calm down. A group that are mercenaries that fight in wars like in Iraq were hired under the Homeland Security in the United States of America to deal with Black American citizens during a tragedy. And he said and pointed to a man and says he's even deputized by the governor of the state of Louisiana. Are y'all seeing the geopolitical play here? Are you all seeing the connections between the powerful forces that do war around the world, but do war domestically right here in the United States against its own citizens? This is why I'm telling you, click the link when this broadcast is over below so that you can save your seat for my October event that I'm doing with Brother Rizza Islam. We can't talk about this online, baby. We got to go underground. Shh. Watch this. We can make arrests and use lethal force if we deem necessary, end quote. The man then held up the gold Louisiana law enforcement badge he wore around his neck. Do you all see the play between a geopolitical force, Homeland Security, national federal force, agency in the United States, working with the state and the governor of Louisiana against American Blacks? Vicki, please keep reading. Y'all ain't ready for the next parts. The Blackwater operators described their mission in New Orleans as, quote, securing neighborhoods. I'm about to go. As if they were talking about Sadir City. When National Guard troops descended on the city, the Army Times described their role as fighting the insurgency in the city. They call Black American citizens who fought, died, and built this country and fought in all of America's wars, even when we were still practically in chains. They called them, quote, the insurgency in the city. Brigadier General Gary Jones, I'm giving y'all a lot of names and receipts, who commanded the Louisiana National Guard's Joint Task Force, told the paper, quote, the place is going to look like Little Somalia. Where's my Somali family in the chat? If you see this later, because I know people around the world watch this broadcast at different times, let my Somali family comment below. Let me read you this quote again. Y'all think I'm making this up? I said Brigadier General Gary Jones, who commanded the Louisiana National Guard's Joint Task Force, told the paper, quote, this place is going to look like Little Somalia. We're going to go out and take this city back. We're going to go out and take this city back. This will be a combat operation to get this city under control. 10 days after the storm, New York Times reported that although the city was calm with no signs of looting, y'all hear that? With no signs of looting, though it acknowledged this had taken place previously, but not like the media says. Quote, New Orleans has turned into an armed camp patrolled by thousands of local, state, and federal law enforcement officers, as well as National Guard troops and active duty soldiers. I got chills running through my veins right now. I got to remind you all what happened then. And I need you all to pay attention to the unseen politics that might be taking place with this Hurricane Helene behind the scenes. And notice, whether you know it or not, the target is always Black Americans, and they're going to throw out other folks so that you can't see the forest for the trees. I'm almost done because I got to go now. As the time noted, the local police superintendent ordered all weapons, including legally registered firearms, confiscated from civilians. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Ain't that something? But as the Times noted, that order did not, quote, apply to hundreds of security guards hired by businesses and some wealthy individuals to protect property, who openly carried M16s and other assault rifles. Scahill spoke to Michael Montgomery, the chief of security for one wealthy businessman, who said his men came under fire from, quote, Black gangbangers. Man, y'all better understand the forces you working with. Near the 9th Ward. I said near the 9th Ward. If you're watching me from around the world, y'all may not know nothing about the 9th Ward. But we're their target is the point. Armed with AR-15s and Glocks, Montgomery and his men, quote, unleashed a barrage of bullets in the general direction of the alleged shooters on the overpass. After that, all I heard was moaning and screaming, and shooting stopped. That was it. Enough was said. Watch this, y'all. I gotta hurry up. Malik Rahim, a Vietnam veteran and longtime community activist, was one of the organizers of the Common Ground Collective, who quickly began dispensing basic aid and medical care in the first days after hurricane. But far from aiding the relief workers, Rahim told me this week that the police and troops began patrolling the streets, treated them like criminals or, quote, insurgents. African American men caught outside also ran the risk of crossing paths with roving vigilante patrols who shot at will, he said. I'm almost done, family. I got to give y'all nothing but receipts. In this dangerous environment, Common Ground began to rely on the white volunteers to move through a city that had simply become too perilous for Blacks. In July, the local police station, WDSU, released home video taken shortly after the storm hit of a local man, Paul Gleason, who bragged to 2 police officers about shooting looters in Algiers section of New Orleans. Here's a quote. Y'all ready? Did you have problems with looters? Asked an officer. Quote, not anymore, said Gleason. Not anymore? Quote, they're all dead, said Gleason. The officer said, what happened? Quote, we shot them, said Gleason. How many did you shoot? Y'all got to forgive me. 38. 38 people. What did you do with the bodies? Quote, we gave them to the Coast Guard, said Gleason. Gleason told his story with a cup of red wine in his one hand and riding a tractor with Blaine Kern's Mardi Gras World. There's much more I could say, but I think I said enough. Just so you know, family, the official government records reflect that Black water was said to have been responsible for also shooting Black Americans during Hurricane Katrina. And none of them have been properly held accountable or prosecuted, to my knowledge, at the time of this airing. Not appropriately, I'm saying. There are forces, as I have just proved to you in no limit of time with the previous hurricane. There's already shenanigans going on with this hurricane and resources that are supposed to go to Americans. And we can't explain how we're sending hundreds of billions of dollars for wars around the world, but we cannot deal with those who are Americans and supply and take care of them here. I'm going to talk about those forces. The war that's happening abroad and the wars that's happening here. In my event with Brother Rizza Islam. Yes, you heard me, Brother Rizza Islam, October 27th. Save your seat as the broadcast is. Our dear brother is going to put the link in the chat. It's going to be pinned in the chat. Go to my website. The website where you can register is at VickiPlanet.com. That's VICKI Planet.com, VickiPlanet.com. Beloved, thank you for tuning into this. This is not about us hating on the Democrat Party or giving unnecessary criticism to Kamala Harris. We're trying to get you all to understand that we're not going to accept an oppressor because they smiles at us over a one that's more belligerent and loud. And we're going to hold them accountable, whether you like it or lump it. Talk black to me, somebody. This is our day. This is our time. And we're just here to give you the information that is important to Black folks here in the United States and around the world. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to check out the other broadcasts. Our brother Phil Scott's going to go live later on today. You all know he goes live every evening, family. Be sure to support my other beautiful colleagues here, family. You all know that sometimes it's difficult to see our information here, so look for us on purpose. Yes, share the broadcast for us on purpose, baby. We're in a media war, and you can help us win it. Thank you so much. It's such a privilege to come before you. My name is Vicki.